Hey grade 7, welcome to another edition of Mr. V Teaches Math. And today we're going to move on in our textbook, and we're going to look at something called lowest common multiple. So our goal is to be able to identify the lowest common multiple of two or more numbers. I think one of the first things that we need to understand is not to confuse a multiple with a factor. Okay, multiples, we get multiples by multiplying the number that we're looking at, so it gets increasingly bigger, whereas factors are numbers that divide into a number. So if I say that we need to find the lowest common multiple of 4 and 6, what we're going to do, the first way that I've written out there is to show you just to list the multiples of each number. So start listing out multiples of 4. 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 5 is 20. So we list them out in order. Do the same thing with 6. 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 4 is 24. Now, what we do is we find the first number that appears on both lists. So in this case, 12 is the first number that's going to appear on both lists. So what we do is we use our little three dots and we say, therefore, the LCM, lowest common multiple, of 4 and 6 is 12. Down below that, it says to use prime factorization to find the lowest common multiple of 8 and 12. Now, we know how to use prime factors to find the greatest common factor. We're going to do something similar to that. And yet it's got a few tweaks that are a little bit different. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to use repeated division. I know 2 goes into 8 4 times, and 2, and then 2. So the prime factorization of 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. Now over here I'm going to do 12. 2 goes into 12 6 times, 2 goes into 6 3 times. Oh, my ink is not cooperating real well. Anyway, so I say that 12 is 2 times 2, I'll do this, times 3. I'm going to put it a little further over, because here's what I'm going to do. I have numbers that repeat on both lists. I'm only going to write it out once, so I have 2, I'm going to carry down the multiplication, times 2, and then there's a 2 here that doesn't fit, and then a 3 here that doesn't fit. But I'm going to multiply the repeated numbers, and then the 2 that don't repeat. I'm going to line it up like that, and then multiply them all together. And so 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 12, times 3 is 24. So I can say, therefore, the LCM, lowest common multiple, of 8 and 12 is 24. I've seen it done a different way as well, where you list the prime factors in a Venn diagram. And so the way that would work, let me just turn the page over for a second. So if I have 8 and I know that it's 2 times 2 times 2, and I have 12 and I know that it's 2 times 2 times 3, I know that there's a repeat here and here, right, with the two 2's. So if I get up my Venn diagram and say these are going to be all the factors of 12 and these are all the factors of 8, the stuff that's in the middle is what overlaps. So there are a pair of 2's that are on both lists. Then in the number 12, there's a 3 as a prime factor as well. So I know 3 times 2 times 2 is 12. And then in the 8, there's an extra 2. Now what I do with that is, again, I just take the numbers and I multiply them together. So 3 times 2 times 2 times 2, right? So 3 times 2 times 2 times 2, and I still get 24. And ultimately, I can double check that if I really feel the need to by listing out the factors. 8 times 4 is 32, and then there's 40. I don't need to go any higher than that. So for 12, it's 12, and then it's 24. Well, right there, that's the lowest common multiple. Okay, so this is an interesting way. The other way that I showed you over on this side, it works as well if you want to use prime factors. I find that the prime factor method works well when your numbers are pretty large, like if you say you were using something like 80 and 120, right? Then start writing out the factors, or writing out the multiples rather, becomes a bit of a challenge. But coming up with the prime factors becomes a little bit easier. So anyway, that is LCM, lowest common multiple. And ultimately, if you have questions, then you can post comments in the comment section, and I'll try to answer them. Anyway, have a great night. Talk to you soon.